It's been a long time. We shouldn't have left you without a dope podcast to step to. What's up, Brad?
What is happening? You're that picture you let off with. You're gonna piss off the two Dodger fans that
Hey, you
listen
know
to
what?
us.
Here's what I've learned about Dodger fans.
Yes.
They are more frustrated with their own team because they know how good their
Yeah.
team was than they are with us.
Oh yeah.
Completely. That's what I've learned.
Oh totally. Yeah. I mean, because when you look at it, you had it all the way down to the wire. Just two teams just fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting. And then you kind of figure one of us was going to get to the Braves or the Brewers, and it was going to be this gigantic letdown and beat up and tired, and that's what happened. Could have been us. I mean, we could have gotten through Game 5, and that could have been us getting our butts handed to us by the Braves.
So here's a question, and you actually posed this to me earlier. There was a
Yep.
write-up in The Athletic about whether or not starting pitchers are going to be used as relievers in future postseason. And I mean, it may very well happen in the World Series. I'm not sure, but it looked like that's kind of what bit the Dodgers in the butt, was just this overusage of the starting pitchers as relievers because of the fact they didn't have Kershaw. So they really only had 3 starters, and then it was bullpen games. So I really, I mean, I don't have any sympathy for them at all, but there was going to be a situation with their starting rotation and bullpen throughout this playoffs, no matter what, just because they didn't have any depth.
Yeah, and we have a segment coming up later where I'll get a little bit more into that part of it, just meaning having to do with the Giants and Dodgers in terms of how they used their starters in the postseason. But yeah, Ned Yost was interviewed in this article, and I actually had to look it up because I couldn't remember if Ned Yost had retired or not.
Yeah.
Famously, we faced him in the 2014 World Series with the Kansas City Royals. He was the manager then. Then he went on and won the 2015 World Series with the Royals against the Mets. He retired, and he said in the article, actually, a little bit had to do with the fact that he learned the game a certain way, and as it started to change and get a little more analytical and these types of things, he thought, I don't know if it's necessarily for me anymore. So he kind of ducked out a little bit. But yeah, it's a tough thing. Anytime you see a starter come in, you always wonder, is this guy going to be fresh for his next start? Especially now when growing up, you and I think of a starter coming in to pitch in a World Series or a playoff game, only within like the last 10 years or so. We think of it as it's the end. You have no other options. This is your best option to either move on or win the entire thing.
Yeah.
Not win game 2 of a 5-game series, not
Right.
win game 3 of a 7-game series. So it's a little bit different the way they're doing it now. But yeah, I can't see it going that way. I agree with the article that there is not enough. It's such a tiny sample size of the way that that starters have been used in the postseason, coming in relief. You need more analytics. You need more. What is his curveball doing? What is his slider doing? What is his fastball doing in the 4th inning when he comes in game 3 versus the 1st inning of game 1 that he started? Where are the adrenaline levels? What about the pregame routine? All that good stuff.
So what did you think about Scherzer's his I don't even want to call it an excuse because it was legitimately he said he was overcooked. His arm was overcooked. And, without him doing what he did, they don't get there. But at the same time, it's probably better. I mean, so the reason why I bring this up, we saw this in 2002 with Rob Nen, right? Like that dude's arm was hanging off of his shoulder. And they turned off the speed gun because he wasn't, So we've seen that happen where you just overuse. And some people may say, well, maybe if they didn't overuse Nen, then he would have been fresher for the World Series. And then you go back and go, well, if you don't overuse Nen, you may not get to the World Series. So that's kind of the chicken and the egg thing. I feel for Scherzer because you got a lot of Dodger fans who are just like, screw this guy, he let us down. And it's just like this guy, pitching is so habitual, and he gave it all. He gave it that he ended the Giants. Even though I still don't think that there was a swing there, but he was in there at the end, and he was on short day's rest and finished the game off. And so he was like in one moment you're like, oh, what a warrior, and then like a week later you're like, oh, this guy, he doesn't have the stones to do it. I don't know. I mean, I guess I get it, but Roberts put him in some situations where, it caused him to wear down near the end there.
Well, I'm just a, 48-year-old guy sitting in his house talking about baseball. So this is just coming from me, but from a business perspective, it's protecting the investment. He's 37 years old. He's going to be a free agent. He's going to make bank, but this is the last bank he's going to make.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to go into free agency with I'm going to have Tommy John, so I'm going to be out next year, and then I'll come back as a 38/39-year-old.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. So I think a little bit was protecting the investment, but also protecting the investment in the way of knowing that, hey, my arm is not where it's supposed to be. You want me to pitch in the National League Championship Series, I'm going to blow my arm out because I don't have I have a sixth speed, and that's it. I don't have a fifth, fourth, third, second, first.
Yeah,
This is it. I'm going out there and I'm throwing. So if I do that,
I
you
can't
may not have
all of
me
a sudden pitch to contact.
No, you can't be a pitcher because why? I mean, that's not what Scherzer does. Don't throw him out there, especially if he's going to do it. I agree with the decision from a standpoint of, was he going to carry you into? Well, he was going to carry you into Game 7, maybe.
Yeah. And it wasn't even clear if he was going to be able to throw Game 7. No one has. I haven't seen anybody ask them about that, but that was the idea, was that he's going to pitch in this Game 7. But even even as they were gearing up to Game 6, he was just like, I can't. And it's only the next day. So
yeah, and I'm kind of curious down the line a few years from now, if things come out and he says, you know what, I came in and pitched that 9th inning against the Giants in Game 5 of the NLDS. I didn't like being used that way, but he was ready. I mean, he told Roberts before the game, I'm ready. I'm ready to do this. But I mean, was that it? I mean, how many pitches did he throw in that night?
I don't know, just that one inning, right?
Yeah, it was just one inning. So 20 pitches maybe. Got a free check swing called third strike to get himself out of having to throw more pitches.
Yeah, if Turner makes a play, maybe he doesn't throw a few more of those pitches.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, it's hard to say. I don't think that 9th inning of Game 5 in the NLDS was what did it for him. I think leading up to that, he was pitching lights out. He was giving everything he had to try to catch the Giants and win the NL West. And he pitched in the wild card game too, right? So, I mean, and he gave everything he had in the wild card game. So I can't blame the guy. I mean, the situation is what it was. I can't honestly say that pitching the 9th inning of that Game 5 was the one that did him in.
What's interesting, and this is probably not interesting for Dodger fans, but Kershaw and Scherzer, both free agents.
Mm-hmm.
We know that Kershaw is not Kershaw of yesteryear.
No.
But it would be interesting to see if the Giants have any interest in him at all.
I thought about that, and we said we're going to talk about this also in a couple of weeks once we know.
Yeah. Once we figure out where things are going, we'll do a much larger sort of free agency kind of thing. Yeah,
to give everybody an idea, though, we don't know really exactly who's going to be a free agent until about 5 days after the World Series ends. Because you have all these players like Buster Posey, who has an option that the team can pick up. They can do that within those 5 days. Once those 5 days hit after that, options that aren't picked up, then you know who's going to be a free agent out there. But yeah, I did think about that. I thought about that today. I pictured him in the in the black and orange Kershaw, and I thought, I don't know if I like that. I mean, it's like the
I'm telling you, it's like Hershiser again.
yeah, it's the Hershiser syndrome. Although we loved him. I mean, when he came to us, it took a couple of games, and we were like, okay, I accept this.
Yeah.
This is okay. So
he was a lesser version of the Bulldog, but he was still the Bulldog.
yeah.
So you know who Kershaw's really good pals with is one Brandon Belt, and I feel like if Brandon Belt doesn't have to face Kershaw again, his average probably goes up about 10 points.
Yeah, that's quite possible. And then Belt re-signs, and we sign Kershaw, and everything's good. So
Yeah. All right, so let's dig into this World Series here for a few minutes.
Yeah.
So we have the Braves, and we were talking about the Braves all season long as like the team who was the best team in the East, but they were not playing up to their capabilities. And then all of a sudden, I think it was after like game 111, they finally reached 500 and just took off from there.
Yeah.
Won 88 games in the regular season. But I guess my question isn't even in who do you think is going to win. The Astros are on paper the better team, though no McCullers for the whole series. He's out, and that was their number one. So that's a little bit of an advantage to the Braves just right there. Who do you want to win this series? And I'll preface this by saying, on the Braves NLDS roster, now I don't think we've seen a World Series roster yet.
No, I looked for it today. I think they don't have to announce it till tomorrow.
Yeah. One Ejair Adrianza is their utility guy. Adam Duvall, who just continues to hit bombs. Will Smith, and like 60-game giant, not even 60 games maybe, Drew Smiley.
Right.
So those are former Giants on that team, and by proxy, do you count Rosario, because didn't he get traded for Pablo?
Yeah, I mean, if you want, you could put him in the family. Sure, why not?
He turned into Will Clark 1989 in that NLCS.
Gosh.
And so you have those former Giants. So if there's a rooting interest, and you're like, man, I had stock in Adrianza to be like a good player, but on the other side, you have, the cheaters, but you have Dusty Baker at the same time. And if you're a fan of Dusty Baker, it would be nice to see him actually get a World Series. Someone should find Russ Ortiz's game ball from 2002 and give it back to Dusty. Maybe that will be like the thing that reverses whatever that curse that Dusty has.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I'm wondering who are you rooting for?
All right. So actually, the name of a ska band, a good name of a ska band would be Destiny and the Cheaters, right? Wouldn't that be a good ska band name? So, because the Astros really don't have any former Giants except for Destiny. So when you got Dusty and you got the Cheaters, everybody hates the Astros. So it's hard, but they've got really good, gritty ball players. So that's what makes it kind of tough to hate them. And they cheated the Dodgers out of a World Series. So it's also kind of hard to hate them. And the Braves, Will Smith, Drew Smiley, Adam Duvall, Adrianza, and then Pablo, who will by default get a ring if they end up winning it.
Right.
Even though he's not there anymore. But so I got to go with the Braves. I'm a Braves fan this week and a half, whatever it is. As you know, our good friend Harveen Castillo, he listens to the show on occasion, and he's been in all of our fantasy leagues for years.
Mm-hmm.
I've been friends with him since my freshman year of high school. And that was 1987-88. So I got to see his pain in the 91 World Series against the Twins. Got to see his joy when they finally won it. What year was that when they finally won it? Was it 96? I want to say it was 96 when they finally got their, or did they even get it? I mean, that whole 90s stuff is so clouded by the Yankees. You feel like the Yankees won the World Series every single year in the 90s. But I want to say it was 96 Braves and the Yankees, because I think Fife Dog told us that too in one of his lyrics. Coming with more hits than the Braves and the Yankees.
They beat the Indians, right? 95.
That's right. That's right. That was when Jose Mesa somebody on the Indians claimed that Jose Mesa had dead eyes during that that final when he blew the save and lost the World Series. So that's right. At 96, the Braves lost to the Yankees.
Yes.
Coming with more hits than the Braves and the Yankees.
Yes.
So anyways, I'm a Braves fan this week for my friend Harveen, and all the former Giants. I mean, yeah, Drew Smiley, Adam Duvall, we loved him. You know, we were frustrated with him, but we loved him.
Yeah.
Will Smith, you know,
there's a little Belt versus Duvall thing for a little while too.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, let's go Braves. Let's go Bravos. I love Dusty. I hope he gets his ring. Just maybe not this year.
So on our Twitter page, we did a poll, and it was 65% to 35% Braves over Astros. I am rooting for Dusty. I really don't care who wins.
Yeah,
but I think it'd be a nice thing for Dusty to get that, you know, that thing that's been elusive. Because, you know, how old is Dusty? He's like one of the oldest managers in baseball, right?
He is. And he was, I think somebody tweeted out this morning that Dusty was listening to Tupac and Slim Thug. Slim Thug's from, I had to look it up. He's from Houston. So that makes sense. I think he was part of that whole rap scene in the like late 90s, early 2000s, Slim Thug and can't remember the other, Paul Wall, all that type of stuff. Yeah, good old Paul Wall
with his grill.
Apparently he's making bank off of that grill company right now.
Wow.
So I think he just like finally quit rapping and he's like, I'm just concentrating on the grills. But listening to Tupac, his Bay Area, a little bit of Bay Area roots when he, you know, got into San Francisco and everything. So, yeah. I mean, I would still like it. So either way, really, you know, I don't really care. But one way Harveen wins, the other way Dusty wins, and we all win. So there you go.
Yeah. All right. And, you know, I not that we're petty or anything, but I just want to show this one as well. For the podcast listeners, we led the show with a photo of the Dodgers logo with the crying Jordan as the baseball, and this one that Brad's cracking up at is the Dave Chappelle show sketch where he's got like the cocaine on his lips and stuff, and he's scratching, and he's like, "Got any more of that?" Whatever, and then so this one says, "Got any more of them 60-game seasons for the Dodgers?"
I think I bought the Chappelle show, you know, the unrated, unedited DVD set for $7 back in the day. I don't even think I've taken the wrapping off of it because they're on like Netflix and everywhere else. So.
Well, one of Chappelle's, he did a stand-up and he was like, and I'm not talking about the one where he's kind of in hot water about. This was earlier this year where he was saying, if you support me, like, don't support Comedy Central because they aren't paying me for any of that stuff. He's like, so don't even buy it. Like, don't watch it. That's how you can support me. So he's not happy with those guys.
That's crazy.
All right. So enough about the national baseball scene. Let's talk about the Giants. The last time that we recorded was after Game 5. What a courageous thing for us to do after the heartache. And so much so that you were not feeling well that night. You had a headache. No. You were a little nauseous just from the headache and everything, and you still stuck it out.
Yeah, I'd never had a migraine before in my life. And about the 7th inning, and we did a lot of travel the week before. I didn't sleep much.
Yeah.
I was running on fumes. And right in there started this headache right around the 7th inning. We were down 1-0. And I like to think it had nothing to do with the game, which I don't think it did. And then all of a sudden, it just got worse and worse and worse. And the head was like in a vice. I was sweating, nauseous. It was a really weird experience. Never had a migraine before. And that's what my wife told me I had. So I was like, oh, okay. I don't like this. So I just want to say, I feel for everybody out there who has ever had a migraine. That was my first. That was the most awful experience of my life. I can't even imagine what people who get them regularly go through.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So that was the last time we chatted. We took a little bit of time away. We did not record last Monday. We took a break. We're back. We're fresh. We got some rest. How do you feel now, with the end of that series in the rear view? Are you whole again? Like, are you still frustrated? Like, what's the deal?
Oh, you're gonna do this to me. You're gonna bring me back. You know what? I was over it. It took me 2 days.
Yeah.
The next day I was like, oh, still can't believe it's over. Still can't believe we're not moving on. Still can't believe we're not going to get our revenge against Atlanta for taking the season series against us. I wanted that so badly. I wanted to see Logan Webb get some more big games because, I mean, he pitched fantastic in Game 5.
Amazing.
Yeah, so I wanted to see him kind of continue that on. And it was a little bit of that worry the next day, like, how do we keep the band together? This wasn't that season. This wasn't that season where it was like, okay, we put all these guys together to win 107 games. Go out there and do it and win the World Series. That's not what this team was. This team was a 500 club that was going to have some trade chips around the trade deadline and get some more pieces in return and keep building the roster. So when that was over, I thought, whoa, no. So where do we go from here? But yeah, it took me. And then the next day I thought, okay, yeah, I'm good. I'm fine. On to football season. Need a little bit of a break. And then today started preparing for the show, and it all of a sudden hit me, and I go, I'm ready for next year. I'm ready for spring training. I started getting really, really excited this morning. I was like, oh, let's do this. Let's bring on 2022 World Series. Who cares? Let's get the Giants going. So yeah, it only took me about 48 hours.
Yeah, that was a rough feeling that evening when it happened, when we got off the air. The next day was a little rough, but what happens is, for me, because I'm such a basketball fan,
right,
I immediately was able to turn it off and go, okay, now it's basketball season. The Warriors are, they're playing really well so far. So that was easy. The 49ers, not as easy to kind of be excited about.
Yeah, they're having a rough time.
But you have a lot to be excited for with your Rams.
Well, yeah, and the Rams and Niners, I believe they play on Monday night, not this coming Monday, but I think it's like the 15th.
Okay.
We play on a Monday night, so we'll end up probably recording on Tuesday night or early because we're going to want to watch that.
Sure,
game.
sure, for sure.
But you guys have our number, so I'm worried about that game already. It's a couple weeks away, and I'm already worried about that game.
Yeah, they were able to do they were able to scheme against Goff pretty well, but now the game's changed, and now Cooper Kupp has become the white version of Jerry Rice. So
I saw a great name for him yesterday on Twitter, is making the rounds in Rams Twitter. Stafford had Megatron and Calvin Johnson.
Yes.
Well, Cooper Kupp's nickname is Vanillatron. so that's good.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I actually started thinking, because I love this time of year, Halloween, great time of year.
Yeah.
So I started kind of switching into horror movies. I love the classics. So I went to the old Hammer, Dracula and Frankenstein movies from the late 60s, early 70s. So I've been watching those, and they're so bad. The blood looks like paint. It's awful, but they're fun. They're a lot of fun. So I kind of got my mind off of it with some of that stuff as well. So yeah.
All right. So what are we going to do during this off season? So it is October.
Mm-hmm.
And we have all of November, all of December, all of January. And then by the end of February, baseball comes back with, pitchers and catchers and spring training and all that stuff. So we have, 3.5, 4 months of trying to figure out what to talk about on this podcast. And so, we will still try and do it weekly. We may miss a week here or there just because of life. But we'll figure out some things to talk about. I have already reached out to a couple of guys who do a podcast called Giant Cocktails, and they kind of do what we do, but it's over. They do audio only. They don't do the video thing. So I'm trying to talk them into coming on video with us, so we could all raise our glasses and chit chat. And so I think they're into it. We've talked about you and
Nice.
I on the side have talked about bringing on some other folks. I want to bring on Peter Allen again because he sat with me while you were on vacation. So we'll bring
Yeah.
on Peter. So we're gonna figure out stuff to do. Shows maybe a little lighter, maybe a little shorter, depending on what the topics are. But because I think the Giants are going to be big time players in free agency this year, I think there's going to be a lot of stuff to talk about once this baseball season is completely over, once the World Series is done, late 2021, early 2022. I think there's going to be a lot of stuff to talk about. So we'll have enough to talk about. It's just, we may not do 75-minute shows. We may do 45-minute shows during the off season. So just wanted folks to know that we are not shutting down in any way, though. We're going to come back and find the time to do this, because plus I get to talk to Brad. Like that's the main reason to do this.
Who doesn't want to? Well, and the fun thing too is once it starts ramping up and free agency opens and the trade season opens, that's where it actually gets kind of fun, because then I swear it's like 5 minutes before we go on air, we sign somebody, but then we get to do deep dives into these guys, which is really fun. We get to look at their numbers and what they did last year. Pull up some highlight. And now that we're doing video too, we can actually like pull up some highlight vids of these guys from the previous year and some fun things. So whenever we get a new player in the off season, it's kind of fun to jump into that, the background on that player and the stats and stuff and say, well, how do they fit into this team coming in? We get to, our imaginary lineups and everything else. So it gets really fun during that part for me, at least.
Yeah, for sure. And look, the Giants, just by them having this fantastic season, and at the end of this show we're gonna talk about a few interesting stats that Grant Brisbee posted in an article over the weekend, and just some nice little factoids that I really appreciate. He's really good at doing that.
Yeah, there's some really weird ones, man.
yeah, totally. So before we get to my next question to Brad, which is I'll pose this just so people know where we're going. When we go back to Game 5 in that entire series with the Dodgers, my thought was, okay, what was missing in those moments for them? What did they need more of? Because, like I said, they're going to have a lot of money. They're going to be able to patch up holes. And I'm interested in Brad, because I have two things that I thought were missing from those games that they could have used to beat the Dodgers. And so I'm interested to hear what Brad thinks. But before that, we got to talk about the thing that we're, what are we drinking here? You see my mug. This is a coffee mug. The reason why I have a coffee mug,
that's awesome,
is because I don't have one of those tins that you would put Moscow Mule in. Now, this isn't a Moscow Mule. It's a Kentucky Mule, because I like the bourbon better.
Yeah.
But this is because of what you turned me on to, which is the Zevia. They have mixers, and they have a ginger beer mixer. And I saw it at Sprouts, and I was like, oh, I'm going to try this. And so I've mixed myself a nice Kentucky Mule with the diet ginger beer, or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
And it is amazing. Like, absolutely 100% fantastic. You basically... Now, what they call for a little bit more alcohol. I dialed back the alcohol a little bit because I'm like, this is Monday, man. I'm not.
I usually double it.
So it was like here's your mixer. It's a little can. You throw it over the ice, and you're supposed to put like 3 shots of bourbon in. I'm like,
oh, well, maybe not then.
Yeah, like like not even on a night where I have nothing to do. Like that's too much. So I have like 1.5, and then you have the mixer, you have the ice, and then you shoot some lemon juice on top. It's amazing.
I'm gonna have to try that sometime, because we do have that ginger beer mixer. I don't know what. That's why, because Denise actually makes the Moscow Mules herself.
Sure.
So she makes she loves those. Anytime we go somewhere, that's what she orders.
Yeah.
And I think when we went to the brewery here, when you guys were up this summer, I think that's what she ordered.
Is that what she got?
Yeah, she likes the mules. Pretty much anywhere we go, she'll try them.
Yeah.
But I got to try that. I got to try a Kentucky Mule for kicks. But I went with a local, even though they're out of Henderson, / Las Vegas, Nevada. Still a local in terms of state. The Atomic Duck IPA. This is by Able Baker Brewing Company, kind of a new one on the scene here for us. First time we've gotten them up here. But as everybody knows, there was a lot of atomic testing done out in the deserts in Nevada. But the legend has it that there was a duck that survived an atomic test. In one of the videos, I think you can see a bird flying away.
Oh,
They
wow.
just say it's a duck. So they went ahead and named their IPA the Atomic Duck IPA. So it's really good. It's kind of straw colored. Not heavy, not a heavy IPA. I like the heavier, bigger IPAs. It's got a little bite to it, pretty juicy, good stuff.
So the reason for keeping it in the can versus pouring it in a glass.
Yeah.
Where do you go with that?
So it depends. I mean, I love it. I love the cans because they're less cumbersome than the bottles. They're easier to recycle. This year, Sierra Nevada Celebration Fresh Hop IPA, which comes out every Christmas time, has always been in bottles. This is the first time it's going to be in cans, and actually, it's only in cans. You can't get it in anything else. But when I'm at home, I'll pop the can and then I'll pour it into the glass. But if I'm out barbecuing and it's cold and whatever, I'll throw it in a slip, in like a koozie and just drink it out of the can. But the whole thing with IPAs, especially in most beers, is when you pour it into the glass, then your nose goes into the glass. So you're actually getting a good hop whiff as you're drinking it. So you're getting kind of twofold. Now, when you're drinking it out of the can, you're only getting there. Your nose is up here. You're not getting smells of the IPA. You're not getting smells of the hops. So that's the big difference. If you're going to drink really good beer, please, please, please pour it in a glass. That's all I ask.
All right. So let's talk about this. When you watch that series, when you think about that series, when you play game 4 and 5 in your head all over again, what were the Giants missing to beat the Dodgers?
What I think it's one thing. I think the Giants could have hung with them offensively. I think things just shut down. You're probably going to have a better offensive perspective than I will on this. I went with pitching. And if the Giants had the Dodgers bullpen and Gabe Kapler had the Dodgers bullpen to manage, they would have swept the Dodgers in 3 games. There's no doubt in my mind whatsoever. He would have not even had to use relievers had they gone 4 and 5 games. I think he did a great job of managing. I think the Giants needed that's not to say the Giants don't have a great bullpen. They have a great bullpen. They have
a historically great bullpen for their
exactly. But I think when it comes down to it, I think it's experienced bullpen arms. The Kenley Janssens, the Blake Trainins, those types of guys. Joe Kelly. Joe Kelly's been around since before dinosaurs, I think. When you look at his
glasses look like it.
Exactly. He's been around forever. So if Gabe Kapler had that experience in the bullpen, I think the Giants sweep the Dodgers in 3 games and it's over and done.
The statistics actually back you up on this one.
Oh. Well, I got something right. Look at
that. and I completely agree with you. I didn't choose like the bullpen overall. I chose one player. And this is something that we had talked about this as the trade deadline came, which is, do we need an experienced closer to pitch the 9th inning? At that point, we're like, we got Mac Cheese, we got Rogers. They're kind of stitching it together. They're taping it together, and it's doing okay. And then Duvall came out in the last month of the season, and he was like on fire, throwing 102. I would have loved for Duvall to be the 8th inning guy because there's less pressure. Like, who is he compared to? He was compared to what was the guy's name? The Angels pitcher in 2000.
Oh, Frankie Rodriguez. Francisco Rodriguez. Yeah.
And the reason why Rodriguez was so electric, he didn't have to throw the 9th inning. Right. They had Troy Percival throw the 9th inning.
Yeah. Yeah, and everybody forgets that. Everybody, whenever they talk about Frankie Rodriguez, everybody goes, "Oh yeah, he came in and was the closer." Yeah, I think I even heard that on the broadcast. No, he was the eighth inning guy. He was the setup guy who threw like 185 miles an hour and was just, shutting people down.
And so, if they had actually found that guy to throw the ninth inning, now the Dodgers. Kenley Jansen has been there forever.
Yeah.
And he sort of reinvented himself this year. Did a great job because they weren't comfortable even throwing him last year. He figured it out, but the Giants didn't have that guy who you could just go, okay, here's the ball. We're going to go sit down and read the newspaper because we know this game is over.
Yeah.
So we thought Duvall might be that guy, but you and I even talked about this. Like, he's a young dude. And you believed in him. You believed him as a guy, and I supported that because, he's as cool as the other side of the pillow, as the great Stuart Scott used to say, right? Like his heart rate just is 5 decibels per minute less than everybody else. That's just how he does it. But I do wish that he could have been the eighth inning guy, and we had even a Blake Treinen to throw the ninth inning. Like he would have been completely fine on this Giants team. So, So that's one. Now my second one is there's a stat that the Giants had the most home runs in the history of Major League Baseball by a team without a 30 home run player. Right?
Yeah.
Like this is a crazy stat.
That's crazy.
So they also had 17 players who had 5 or more home runs, also a record for Major League Baseball. We needed the guy who could hit 30 home runs.
Yeah. But did we? Yeah, I guess we did.
And here's why.
Yeah. Well, how many did Bell hit?
He was close. He had like 26 or something.
So
he would have been the 30 home run guy had he.
That guy.
And maybe that's all we were missing was Belt, right?
Yeah.
But we saw Baby Yaz. We saw Longoria. We even saw Brandon Crawford up in important parts of the game where we were not 100% comfortable that they were going to get that big hit. If you had Belt, and this fan base, they're not 100% sure that Belt's going to get the hit either. But it would have been great so that Yaz or Longoria or these other guys wouldn't have been in those spots, because every 9 batters you got like Buster and Crawford and like one other guy who the Dodgers really had to worry about. It's one thing to go, you know what, Darren Ruff had a good series, because he did.
Right.
But they pitch him, they have him bat against lefties, and he's in and out. I want the stalwart who's there, who's in the lineup every day, who's hitting fourth, and we're just like, I'm so confident in that guy. So I think that's also what they're missing. Now they have the opportunity to find that guy in the offseason, and we'll talk about that as the offseason comes. But whether it's a Marcus Semien or somebody like that who hits 46 bombs playing middle infield, guys like that, I think that is like one of the missing pieces, and they should be able, if Buster comes back and they bring in a guy like that, then you don't have that hole. And someone like Yaz or someone like Longoria, who they're struggling so much near the end of the season, then you're like, look, pressure's off. We got this guy. And if you strike out, then the whole fan base isn't going to just be up in arms, because they know Marcus Semien's coming up.
Yeah.
3 at-bats. So we're good. Like, don't worry about it.
But Chris Bryant can be that guy.
Sure.
But they've made it known, the Giants brass has made it known that he's going to have many suitors out there. Sure. Yeah. I mean, this is a pretty good free agent crop. I'm just going to throw some names out there. I know we're going to talk about it some other time, but there's guys with mutual options, player options. So we don't know if they're going to be there, but you got Chris Bryant. I'm talking outfielders, because obviously we need another outfielder. We need a guy who can play left, who can play right. You got Chris Bryant. You got Nick Castellanos, who's my personal favorite. I kind of want the Giants to target him in the offseason. But he has a player option, so he could pick that up and he stays with the Reds. Michael Conforto, who can be a 30 home run guy. Kyle Schwarber, he's going to be a free agent, but he has a mutual option with the club. I think he's in Boston now. And here's a kind of a dark horse, older guy, 35 years old, Charlie Blackmon. He's going to be out there. Tough, hard-nosed player, couple of down years. That's the type of guy that the Giants target. He also has a player option, so he could pick that up and stay in Colorado. Why would you at this point in your career when you could go somewhere else? 2-year deal, Houston, San Francisco, Yankees even. I mean, Tampa Bay and Tampa Bay doesn't sign anybody really. They just trade to get people.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's kind of what I'm looking at there. Those could be your 30 home run guys. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Having that 30 home run guy, where coming up in a spot that you've got Belt, you've got Crawford, you got Posey, and you've got a 30 home run guy.
Yeah.
That's good and potent. I still think, I think the Giants need, and I know it doesn't exist anymore, but your prototypical leadoff hitter, your guy who can switch hit 290, maybe hit 2 home runs in the season, but steal 30 or 40 bags, but can get on base, has a great eye like LaStella. I mean, can LaStella be that guy? Left-handed hitter. He could be, but he just wasn't healthy this year, and they signed him to a 3-year deal, right? So, I mean, we're going to get to see next year if he can be that guy. I think that's what the Giants were lacking a little bit too, is that your prototypical leadoff hitter, which again, I don't think exists anymore, but I want it to come back, obviously.
So Castellanos,
Mhm.
he's got an opt-out clause where he could be a free agency this winter.
Yeah.
4-year, $64 million contract with the Reds that he signed before the start of 2020. So he's got an opt-out clause after each of his first 2 seasons. If he doesn't opt out, he's guaranteed 34 over the next 2. He's got to opt out, right?
I think so. What did he hit last year?
309, 34 jacks, 362 OBP, OPS of 939, OPS plus 136. Like, this dude.
Yeah, that's worth more than 17 a year.
Yes. This dude's probably worth, closer to 22, 23.
Probably.
So you got to imagine that but the one thing, if you're a Giants, if you're looking at this from a Giants perspective, and I have zero idea if he's on their radar. I would imagine he's on everybody's radar.
I would think so.
But he's played infield and outfield before.
Right.
He's
that's your Giants type of player. That's also your Dodgers type of player too, and they're going to need to fill some holes. So that's going to be a tough one.
And if you bring back a Bryant, you probably don't also go after a Castellanos. So it's going to be so interesting how they do this jigsaw puzzle of a team, because Zadie's just like, as obviously Zadie wanted to win the World Series 100%. When he saw that this team was good, that was his focus. But this dude has got to be so excited to put this team together the way that he wants to in the offseason.
Oh, for sure. And to look at this team and say, okay, we could probably get Belt on a pretty friendly deal. He loves San Francisco. His family's there. He's going to want to stay there. And then to add a piece like a Chris Bryant or a Nick Castellanos, and then go after some starting pitching. Can you re-sign Gausman? I know a lot of fans are a little soured on him from the second half of the season, but Webb as a 1, Gausman as a 2, that's pretty good. I mean, if you're going a full season and Gausman was really working in that slider, he wasn't just going fastball splitter as much. So he's going fastball, splitter, slider. He starts working that slider in more. He's a 3-pitch pitcher. So you got him, you got Webb, and then you've got guys like Stroman, who's going to be out there. And here's another project too. The Giants love projects. If the Mets say we're done because they have a whole new brass and everything, Thor, Noah Syndergaard's going to be out there. I mean, there's another project type of guy. I don't think anybody's going to be giving him a 7-year deal. Somebody's going to give him a 1-year deal, a 1-year prove it deal, and the Giants are all about that. So, looking at Thor, Kershaw as a 5. I mean, who knows? I mean, there's going to be a lot of players. These are just touching base on who might be out there, but yeah, it's going to be interesting. He's like you said, he's got a lot of money to play with, and then we also have the minor league pieces coming up too. But how much of that do you want to mix in with
well, he already said Joey Bart, he would rather Joey Bart start in AAA.
Yeah, and I'm sure Joey Bart's like, I don't want that. But
what he's using is the idea that they lost the minor league season from last year.
Yeah, and you're not going to have Posey and Bart on the same roster at the same time when
unless there's DH.
This is true. If there's a DH and Buster Posey can be your DH Buster Posey at DH, he could play 162 games. I mean, there's no doubt about that at that point, because he can catch, 80 of them and then DH the rest. 82. Yeah. That's math right there. 80 and 82 is 162. So he could do that, and Bart can catch 82. But like it has been said, Bart is not necessarily defensively catcher major league ready. So he needs
I think that's kind of what Zadie was alluding to.
Yeah. Which is a bummer, because he's a high draft pick. He's a catcher. He's that really wanted position. That's a tough one. You and I play out of the park baseball. If you draft a catcher high and he's a good catcher, you want to get that guy up there within a couple of years, because that's a very wanted position.
All right, let's talk about a couple of these crazy stats that Grant threw out over the weekend about just how good this Giants team was. So the first one he threw out was adjusted ERA plus, which was 1.27. Now, off the top of my head, I don't exactly know what goes into adjusted ERA plus.
Yeah.
But here is the glossary term from MLB.com.
I always read these and I don't quite, even after I read them, I'm like, I still don't get it.
All right. So the definition of adjusted earned run average plus is ERA plus takes a player's ERA and normalizes it across the entire league. It accounts for external factors like ballparks and opponents. So if you play at a bandbox, then it accounts to it. If you play in a place where nobody scores, it adjusts for that as well as opponents. So, if you had a harder schedule than some other teams, it adjusts for that. It then adjusts so a score of 100 is the league average and 150 is 50% better than the league average. For example, Mariano Rivera's 2.21 career ERA was 105% better than the MLB average during the time he pitched, including adjustments for park and league. That gives him a 205 career ERA plus, the best of all time.
That's insane.
All right, so what Grant said is the Giants' adjusted ERA plus as a pitching staff was 1.27, the best in San Francisco Giants history. Better than the Lincecum Kane years. Better than the Juan Marichal Gaylord Perry years. So historically, they're not quite Maddox, Glavine, and Smoltz, but they still compete with teams from the 60s and 2011 when home runs, the Giants teams from the 60s and 2011 when home runs were far less prevalent. This team was historically excellent at preventing runs relative to the other teams. The problem with that is the Dodgers were even better at adjusted ERA plus this year. So,
and I think we saw that in the NLDS.
Yes.
I think we saw that they They were pretty dialed in pitching wise. Yeah, that was and it was funny too, because watching the season, and watching it play out, I wouldn't have said the Giants were a 127. Yeah, I would not necessarily that, but I wouldn't have said that they were better than the Lincecum Kane years, 10, 12, 14. 2011 falls in there, right? As one of the San Francisco's best.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
yes. So another stat, which is quite interesting, the home run differential. So how many home runs the Giants hit versus how many they gave up? What is the differential between those two numbers? This year, the Giants had a home run differential of 90. So they hit 90 more home runs than they gave up. That is tied for 10th all-time Major League Baseball history. The top is the 27 Yankees, who had 116 home run differential. The Minnesota Twins of 2019. Holy crap. Then
I would never have guessed that.
No, then the Blue Jays of 2010, the 61 Yankees are fourth. The 05 Rangers were fifth. 47 New York Giants were sixth. The 98 Braves and the 36 Yankees were tied for seventh. The Dodgers of 2 years ago were ninth, and then tied at 10th, the Giants, the 18 Yankees, and then the 2001 Giants as well. So
yeah,
all the teams who hit bombs were on that list. Now, we talked about some of these other ones. Home runs as a team, 241, 29th in Major League Baseball history. And that is without a single player who hit 30. That's crazy.
Jeez.
And then lastly, the one that probably hurts the most, 107 wins, is tied for 13th in Major League Baseball history. Now, as Grant writes, there were seasons in which there were 154 games rather than 162, which is today, and which has been the case for many, many years. The top team in the history of Major League Baseball, Brad, you know this one, the Mariners, 116 wins in 2001. The 98 Yankees had 114. The 69 Orioles, the Brooks Robinson Orioles, had 109 wins, and they had didn't they have like the four aces as well?
Yeah.
And
that was a sick team.
2018 Red Sox had 108. The 86 Mets 108. The 75 Reds, the Big Red Machine, 108. The 70 Orioles. So you're talking about the Baltimore Orioles, back-to-back seasons, 69 and 70, 109 and 108 wins. And then your 2021 San Francisco Giants had the same amount of wins as the 2019 Astros, cheating Astros, you should say.
So we did it legitimately. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
I like those the home run differential. Do you notice on that list, the top 10? I mean, there's really more than 10 teams on there because there's a tie for 7th and three-way tie for 10th. There's only one team from the quote unquote steroid era.
Yeah,
and that's because they were giving up
Yes.
so many damn home runs.
Yes. Yes, they were giving up so many bombs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, this was a different season. I think the Giants definitely played above their weight, and they did so because, they had a lot of players that complemented each other. And, when you have I guess you would say the combination of, the everybody essentially could hit a home run, and the lineups that they put together where guys stayed fresh, guys were generally in favorable situations hitting wise, like all of that stuff really makes a whole lot of sense. And I just wonder if in a short series, it doesn't mean as much as it does over the long series. So I think that's what we're going to see as next year comes along. What did they learn? What did Zadie? What did Kapler? What did the brass learn about the season when it came to being able to win 107 games and then losing to the team who won 106? Like, there's going to be some interesting things that come out of their free agency. I think what they understand that they need versus what we just talked about could be the same, could be completely different. They're just like, oh no, we need like a defensive minded, like late innings third baseman, or something crazy, because they're looking at analytics and we're just kind of looking at larger big picture numbers. So
or two more Tyler Rogers who can throw,
get
throw every single game.
Get his brother.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that type of pitcher is gold. I mean, so I'm sure the Giants are probably looking at relievers who have thrown a lot of innings, because again, I still think that a little bit of the what do I want to say? I lost my train of thought. The inexperience, a little bit of the inexperience. So the Giants are looking for some more experienced relievers, I think, that they could use throughout the season. Then when you get to the postseason, they've been in the postseason, they've seen it before, they've felt it before, and really, I mean, the Giants got that very valuable experience this year, which I think is great.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's gonna be a very fun offseason, I think. You know what's gonna happen though? I think everybody's waiting for the Giants to get whatever the guy is, and for 150, 175 million dollars. And they may just get like a bunch of guys at like, $30 million contracts and do this culmination of like good players. So we'll see. Yeah. I think the fan base will get a little mad about that, but
and I get that, but because a lot of people still probably think like this was lightning in a bottle, but I don't know. I mean, this is a team that is built for success. When one guy gets hurt, another two guys can step in and kind of take his platoon at bats for him. So we've seen that with Belt. It was successful during the season. During the postseason, it was tough. I mean, there were big spots. There were big spots to expect late night Lamont to just pop in there and all of a sudden be the same guy he was during the regular season. I mean, it's a little bit different during the postseason. It's colder. It's later at night. Things are a little more heated. There's way more on the line. So again, getting this valuable experience right now, to not, sit there and take a called third strike on a pitch that just hangs out over the outside part of the plate when you're expecting another inside fastball.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, look at us. We did almost 60 minutes. We were kind of worried about, what are we going to talk about? But as always, we're just a couple of blowhards. We just like to talk. So,
I mean, you get us on baseball and you get us on beer and bourbon, we'll just go for a while. So, yeah.
All right. So, that's it from here. We'll be back next week and we'll have an update on what's going on with the World Series. Do you plan to watch every game? Like, what's your schedule with this thing?
I'm definitely going to watch Tuesday, Wednesday. Although I don't know, Wednesday is our 20-year anniversary, so I probably won't watch.
Probably won't watch it.
Probably won't watch Wednesday's game. Although I hate to say it, everybody in the house is sick right now, so I'm the only one who's not.
Wow.
Walk on fake wood. Everybody, and they've had their COVID test. They're not COVID positive. It's just a regular old cold going through the house. And then we plan to be at a fancy hotel for our anniversary for Thursday and Friday, but I don't know if that's going to work. So there's a chance I do watch all the games. I don't really know at this point. But it should be fun. They should be fun games, especially the games in Houston. So Houston has the home field, right? Because they had the better record. So it's going to be in Houston 1 and 2. And that's always a fun field. The little short porch in left field is fun to watch. So.
All right. Well, if you enjoyed this podcast and you are not subscribed, please subscribe to us in whatever podcast app that you listen to. And if you are an Apple Podcast listener, shoot us a 5-star review there. On our social media, you can find us at Thompson, the number 2, and then Clark. Also on Fight Game Media for our YouTube show. We no longer have our own YouTube channel. We just started throwing our shows on the Fight Game Media YouTube channel because there's more subscribers and hopefully more people will be able to find us. So subscribe to us there. And yeah, so we'll be back next week. For Brad, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.
Peace.